Our next inductee, Venezia, class of 1962. Artie will always tell you that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame just on the basis of his athletic ability, but I would tend to disagree with that. Artie tends to diminish his own athletic ability. He was a very good soccer player, voted the outstanding hockey player and soccer player in his senior year at Watertown High School. He went on to Norwich, voted the outstanding soccer player at Norwich University, played hockey and soccer at Norwich, was an outstanding coach, with merit induction just on his ability as a coach, assistant coach with Dick Umili, head coach in the depths of despair of the Watertown High School hockey program. He revitalized the program and had 5 terrific seasons. If it wasn't for him and Steve Messina and others like him, there wouldn't be a physical fitness center at Watertown High School. A lot of people would say that Steve and Artie basically did that on their own and went out on a limb to do it. Outstanding soccer player, outstanding hockey player at Watertown and Norwich, but no one is more community spirit. No one bleeds more red, white, and black than Artie Venezia, class of 1962. Got a real thrill tonight. Artie's dad is going to present his Hall of Fame plaque to him. I never thought you'd have a similar hairstyle to your dad.
I don't think anyone realized I had a 91-year-old twin brother. All right, Dad, you can sit down now. Wow, it's blinding up here.
Always the boss.
Look, I got to be honest with you. When I first got the call, I was totally humbled and, to be honest with you, a little bit embarrassed. You know, I don't know. I didn't quite know how to handle it, and I certainly thank the selection committee, Bob Caprian, and everyone else who made the decision to put me in here. And I've been dreading this night for 4 months. And trust me, I can talk. Where I want to start is, I got a lot of help in my life, and there's some things real important. And everything started with our parents. My sister Judy, Susan, and my brother Stephen, I'm sure all concur that you couldn't ask for 2 more perfect people. When we were young, the values they taught us, if you just followed whatever they said, you couldn't help but live a productive life. I mean, my mother was beautiful, charming, funny, but I'll tell you, it can be tough. You follow the rules with her. My father, calm, cool, steady as a rock, maybe the most honest person I've ever known in my life, except on the tennis court, where his eyesight all of a sudden went bad. But I'll tell you, the one thing that they did together, they were consistent on how to raise their children. They taught us family values, loyalty, respect. You had to do responsibility. I mean, they were in lockstep together, education, and they stressed it. And I'll tell you, as long as you follow those rules, you never had any problems with them. You broke them and you had to pay the price. But the other thing he always told us, especially with me and my brother, I'm sure, and my father was always one for no excuses. He hated the word "I'm sorry." He said, if you think, you make right decisions, and you do the right thing, you never have to say you're sorry. Everything was making the right decision. The other thing he taught us is you don't have self-pity. You move on, you got a problem, you face it, and you go forward with it. And I'm going to tell you how he was. You know, it's funny, because growing up, some people fear their father, some people, you know, not us. You didn't do anything wrong because you respected him so much. And that's amazing. You know, when you respect someone that much, and you live a right life the way you should live it just because of him, it's an amazing thing he accomplished as a father. I wish I had that ability. But I gotta tell you where he was, though. I didn't have an awkward stage growing up because I really never went through a growth spurt. But I did have an awkward stage in like the 7th grade academically. Now, report card day at our house was like torture for me. And my sister Judy, you gotta understand, I followed a sister who was most vivacious, most lovable, personality. Quite honestly, I can't use that word. She was kind of aggravating sometimes. So we would come home for report card day, and Judy would be first. She'd get like all A's and a D in math because she wasn't very good in math, maybe a C. Me, on the other hand, would get like a B or A minus in math, and then C's and D's. This is the 7th grade. So what we had to do is we had to sit down and listen to my father's spiel. So Judy would go in first, and she'd be all giddy, and Judy, you're doing a great job, and work hard. You know you don't have an aptitude for math. And she'd be on her way. Then me. And I figured, hey, maybe I'll try this. Dad, I don't have an aptitude for anything but math. Didn't really quite work. So he'd sit down, he'd start talking to me, and his lectures were beyond long. And it was always positive, though. Everything he stressed was positive, what you could be. And the funny part is, he'd look at me and say, you know, Artie, you could be president. And I'm looking at him saying, I'm just trying to get through the 7th grade. So he'd be up there and he'd go over this spiel. And to be honest with you, I thought he was drinking. I'm saying, what possibly could make him come up with these statements? But it was good. So my ADD would kick in, and after a while I'd get bored, and I'd think, good enough, that wasn't bad, a good speech. And then my mother would step in. By the way, President, you got a week in the house, so don't move. But enough about them. And again, I love them both to death. And I think my sisters and my brothers the same. We're so close, and it's been fun. We moved to Watertown probably about 3 or 4 months before my 12th birthday. When we moved here, to be honest with you, I never knew what soccer was, and I never owned a pair of ice skates in my life. But I moved in next to Victory Field, which, by the way, was like heaven for anybody. If you lived near Victory Field, there was always something going on. We lived there as kids. Life was easier. There was no kind of youth sport, baseball, Little League baseball. But as kids, we lived down that park. And all you needed was a ball and a couple of kids, and we'd invent games. Walter Narbedian, who's here now, and a guy named Anthony Felicia, a good friend of mine, his wife's here, and a fellow Hall of Famer. They've invented games, bunt ball, judge, hit the opposite field. And it was growing up there your whole life just made you love the life you lived. And Victory Field was the hub of everything. Now, when I moved to Watertown, all the friends I moved, the Williams twins, Camposano, Morahan, Richie Green, Jerry York, they were all hockey players. And anyone from around Victory Field were hockey players. Well, I never even owned a pair of skates. Didn't know really what the sport was. Actually, Dick DeGeri and I was real memorable. Didn't realize I played in his 8th grade basketball team. So anyway, when I came down there, I started playing hockey, put on a pair of skates, skating around with all the guys who were playing. And someone was watching. The man at the fence called me over. His name was Arthur Shannon. Arthur was the middle school hockey coach. And he said to me, he asked me my name, and he said, where you from? I told him, and he said, I'll tell you what, I want you coming out for hockey next year as a 9th grader. And I'm looking at him, I said, I can't even skate. So anyway, I followed his advice, and that's changed my whole life. Arthur was there for me, high school, he was my high school coach, developed confidence in me. I had him as a senior year coach. And I asked him one day, why in the world did you have that kind of interest? Why did you pick me? He said, because there was like 10 or 12 guys out there playing. Everyone would stop, have a drink, fool around, and you were playing like it was the most important game of your life. And I'll tell you, I wasn't the most talented kid in the world. Obviously, I was a little bit limited in size also. But when it came to desire intensity, you'd be hard-pressed to beat it. I believed you played to win, and you did everything in your power to win, and that's what I preached to my grandchildren and when I coached. And I tell you, what Arthur Shannon did to me, followed me through my senior year, a coach from Merrimack came up and talked to me after a game. I couldn't believe it, I was like stunned. I ended up going to New Prep, and back in those days, New Prep was, if you didn't go to college, any guy who was an incredible hockey player who couldn't go to college went to New Prep. So when I went there, I said, call Arthur. I said, Arthur, I can't play. There's 100 guys playing hockey out there. He said, stick with it, you'll be okay. And sure enough, by halfway through the season, I got moved up to the top team. And then after that, I went on to Norwich University, where I played hockey and soccer. And in high school, our teams weren't all that good. We were like 500 in hockey. Soccer would win 5 or 6 games. But at Norwich, it was opposite. Now, when I went to Norwich, I was damn determined I was going to play hockey there. I fell in love. It was like an addiction with me. But soccer wasn't a problem because I knew that would happen. In Norwich, for 3 years, he only played varsity 3, he played freshman. We lost 4 games in soccer. 2 of the teams are Hall of Fame teams that I'm totally proud of. I had a coach named Lefty Lyford, who was the most incredible, best coach I've ever had in my life. Loved the guy to death, and what he did with the soccer program up there was incredible. Hockey came, and all of a sudden that was a little more challenging. And we used to play, because freshmen you played against the varsity, we'd scrimmage 1 day a week. And when I played, I turned it into a war, and I didn't care. I wanted to play so bad, and there was no way anyone was going to stop me from doing it. And that's what you need to do, is if anything else, I'll give myself credit for is desire. Norwich was an incredible experience. It gave me something I was able to do. I ended up going to Germany, not Vietnam. And more importantly, the experience of being a company commander for like 20 months out of the year, 2 years I was there, was something I'll never forget. I loved the school, but like Bobby mentioned, I would have come home in a heartbeat, except that I couldn't go on great. My freshman year was miserable. After that, the thing that I did the most is coaching. When I get involved in coaching, I just loved it. And the reason I loved it, there was nothing more to me and more probably satisfying than anything I've done in my life, was to be able to work with young people and help them out. Sitting in this corner over here are the best people that ever came out of Watertown High in hockey. All they did is win. I had a chance to coach them when I was in youth hockey, and then when Richard Yamili asked me to come up and join him at the high school, we had some of the best experience 3 or 4 years of my life. And I'm so proud that most of them are here, or a lot of them are here. I can't mention names because I don't want to forget anyone, but they're the heart and soul of what athletics were about. And I gotta tell you, one of the greatest feelings and things in my life was when in the middle 80s, late 80s, getting up on a Saturday and Sunday morning, picking up the Globe and reading the box score about the hockey games. You couldn't find any team that didn't have a Watertown player on back then. And it was it's gratifying feeling. I don't care what school it was. We had guys at BC, Northeastern, all Watertown graduates. And again, having that, and then also having the ability, the time and play. I've coached some teams that weren't so good, but the one thing that's never changes, athletics has evolved tremendously over the last few years. It's got more sophisticated. The systems are more intricate. Your coaching techniques have changed, and I'm sure that's true with basketball, baseball, and everything else. But the one thing I'll tell you, the one thing that never changes is what the makeup of an athlete is. And to me, it's effort, determination, heart, and understanding how to play the game. If you have that, you'll be successful. And the last thing I'd like to do before I leave is just thank my family. Obviously, I got a good sized one here. I couldn't be any prouder. I have 2 sons that both played college hockey, which makes us that's quite a distinction. All 3 of us played. My son Michael at Colby, my son Jamie at UConn, and I couldn't be any prouder of them. I got 2 beautiful daughters. My daughter Linda, who played tennis. I will leave it at that, Linda. And my daughter Christy, who played softball, but would take a shower before the game. Before practice. All right. And then on top of that, I have 15 grandchildren. And I cannot tell you how much I love these guys. And I'm tough on them. There's so many games to go to, you literally don't know which way to go anymore. And the thing is, I tell them, Papa will only go if you play hard. I don't care how good you do and what you want, but if you want something in life, you can't wish to be good, you got to be work to be good. And when it comes to anything, whether it's school, academics, work, anything else, my thing is you got to put 100% in it. Sometimes you don't go around the door, you go through it. And as they grow, I'm getting thrilled. I got a granddaughter now who's obviously a field hockey player. Captain last year as a junior, been here 3 years, they haven't lost a game yet, so what a role model for the younger ones. A grandson who's in Hollywood, studying to be an actor. So we got something going on. Now before I end this, and before I mention my wife, I want to mention some people who helped me my whole life. Frank Cousino, who I love to death, Coach Cousino. He was tough. I won't tell him, Frank, that you hit me a couple of times, we'll let that one go. But I'll tell you, I got a little bit of a problem, and Frank gave me an exercise to do called the Tibetan exercise. I did it once. I spun around. I almost killed myself. I hit the wall and everything else. But Frank, Coach Salido, who I never played for in football, but I had in math, just a phenomenal guy. I used to marvel at the guy when I saw him because of his size. He and I could relate. Fabulous guy. Bob Dupree, who my whole life was around. I could tell you stories about Bob when I was coaching, and he called 3 penalties on me when we played Northeastern and almost ruined my college career. But a real good friend. And these people here, as you go through life, you realize what people who believe in you can accomplish. All the kids that were here that I coached over the last few years, even though I wasn't coaching at the high school or clinics, Bosconi, the McMahon brothers. And then Mike Grisler came over to visit me today. Mike was a kid who played for me 5, 6 years, 7 years ago. And here's what I talk about, guts and desire. Michael went on to I think it's Wichita Prep, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Came back, went to school at UMass Dartmouth, didn't make the hockey team the first year. Second, third year made it, had a phenomenal career, and he worked his tail off and he accomplished what he wanted to do. So anyway, the last thing I want to talk about is where is she? She's going to hate me for this. My wife, Barbara. We've been together 45 years, went together 5 years, and I'll tell you, she also keeps me grounded. She's my heart and soul, and I'll tell you how tough she is. She knows more about hockey than most men. And when I was coaching in high school, the beginning of my first year, and coming home every game feeling sorry for myself, almost suicidal, I would sit down and she'd look at me and say, if you're going to sit here sulking, go up to your room. I don't want to look at your face anymore. But anyway, look, people, I love this town. I appreciate it. And thank you very much. And to the election committee, I am proud of being here. Thank you.